podcast listeners. This is Cindy Chen, and I am your host for the podcast of The Rest of Your Life, My Childhood Suitcase. I have had this new episode brewing in me for the last 2 weeks, and I've been thinking about what exactly the hell I'm going to talk about. And just this last week, I was actually inspired by the concept, or actually the battle between scarcity versus abundance. Let me tell you what I mean by abundance. Abundance means having a large supply of something, be it an abundance of grain, something physical, or something intangible like an abundance of love, an abundance of wealth, an abundance of trust, etc., etc. Scarcity is the exact opposite of it. Feeling like you've got nothing. You've got a lot less of what other people have. And scarcity is definitely what I had felt for a very, very long time. Even when I was starting to make more money. And I have, over the past several months, I have actually started to really, really work at and rewire why the hell I had limiting beliefs about money. And that all started with me growing up in a modest accommodations, I should say. I grew up in a modest duplex in just on the edge outside Chinatown. I'm not sure how. I'm trying to remember my first 6 years there, but I do remember that it was a very I think the walls used to be white, and outside of it was dark brown with shambles or something. I just remember that there was our house and a couple of houses down, and there was a auto shop just at the top of the hill. It's still there, mind you. And there was our neighbor that lived down next to this warehouse or something. Anyway, my parents came here, and they worked their fingers to the bone to help provide for us three. And they always, I think it was always instilled in them that they have to work to earn a bit of income so that they can keep bringing food to our table. And I never liked wearing hand-me-downs, mind you. I never liked wearing secondhand clothes, and Mom always sewed clothes. I mean, she's a seamstress, by the way. She would sew clothes for us for a living, and actually would apply her skills to sewing eyeglass cases for Sears. She's no longer there, but she's a really great seamstress. And looking back at it now as an adult, I do appreciate her sewing skills. But as a kid wearing clothes, and I would see all the other kids wearing fashion brands and all that jazz, made me feel kind of I don't know, poor, for lack of a better word. Yeah. I didn't like feeling poor next to all the other kids. Feeling like I don't have the latest toy, or the latest brand of toy. Let's say Pokemon, for example. No, actually, Pokemon's a terrible example, because it's more of a boy's toy. Not having the latest Barbie, for example. Yes, yes, yes. That's the best example because not sure how much a Barbie doll cost at that time. This was the 90s when I was growing up, but say I'd say like 10 15 bucks, but even 10 15 bucks was a lot of money in that day. And and jump forward to when I was 18 and I got my first job. And I always thought that having a little money would buy me a lot of things, and I did not have to depend on my parents anymore for to buy me the next candy, or buy me dance lessons, or buy me buy me the latest clothes, etc., etc. Because I wanted to be like one of the girls, one of the popular girls, that is. I also wanted to buy the latest necklace, so to speak. Anyway, it was just it was just pretty terrible. I'm looking back, I'm not sure exactly what I was thinking when I was growing up. It was just a it was just a terrible little kid growing up. But I guess my parents tell tell you that is if I can get at least my dad on the podcast, but we'll see. We'll see. Excuse me. Anyway, when I turned 18, no, I'm sorry, not 18, 19. Let me correct myself. When I turned 19 and I first graduated high school, I got my first job in an old folks' home. And to me, having a job, working means having my own money to buy my own stuff. And and when I first started college, I took out a few loans, and I took out my first credit card. Yeah, it was really great having my own. So just having all these things meant financial independence to buy whatever the hell I wanted. And over the years, just for some reason, I never really knew why. No, actually, let me tell you what. Let me paint you a picture of why that is. I got my first check of I can't remember exactly how much I got on my first check. I remember that would spend all of it. I don't know. I don't know which. I don't know what I spent my first paycheck on, but I just know that it felt great. It was a hit of dopamine that kind of that would really overwhelm me, just as the way that a gambler would feel for the first time after winning, oh, maybe a few thousand bucks after his or her game. And just like a just like a gambler looking for another hit, I started spending again. And when I got my first credit card, I think it was a Barnes and Noble Mastercard, that credit card that I got. Nobody really told me how a store credit card would put you in a bigger hole than a regular credit card, because when you get a store credit card, they would trap you into a certain store that I think it's more of a higher APR on a store credit card than a than a regular credit card. Yeah, I think that's where I'm getting here. And as soon as I had my first Barnes and Noble Mastercard, I would spend it all, maxing it out, like like water for. I would max it all. Like I need water. Like you need like a starving man needs water, so to speak. After maybe about 3 days in the desert or something. Yeah, it's just really it was terrible. All these years that of me spend of me spending it all, and even though I had finally left my left my job after working 8 years of working I've been working 8 years at several old folks' homes, and I decided to switch to accounting. I still spent more because I feel like I needed all these things: instant gratification, retail therapy, all that kind of jazz. Yes, I even went out. I would even go out to restaurants every night to dinner just to feel like I'm rich. I want to feel like one of those billionaires who would spend their days whining and dining instead of working 9 to 5 jobs. I'm gonna, and it's because I was always jealous. I was always jealous and very envious of people who obviously had more money than I, and using them using the money that I didn't even have, aka a credit card, several credit cards actually, right? I I over time had had about 4 credit cards. I think I still had that Barnes and Noble Mastercard, a American Express card from Costco that changed from that to Visa, and I can't. No, wait a minute. It was no, wait a minute. It was I had a Citibank credit card, and I can't remember the fourth one because I do remember that all of those had totaled up to 5 grand, in addition to the 45 grand in student loans that I was still paying off even after I graduated college. And it was a very stressful. It had been a really stressful, very stressful 8 years of my life. 8 years of my life, yeah, in the red, so to speak. I never really thought I would be one of those people who would run up so much debt that I would be drowning, and I felt like I needed a life vest. And that all came down to a really interesting conversation I had with my with my partner, Mr. E. We got to talking about my finances. This is pretty. This I think was to me an uncomfortable conversation, but very necessary indeed. That if I wanted to have a future, if I wanted to really live my life independently and really, really have nothing holding me down, I need to start paying off. I need to start paying off my debt, starting with my credit cards. And 2000, it was around 2019 that I finally had paid off my credit card. It was from 2008 through 2019. I think that was around that time that I had finally. It was just around that time, so bear with me, because it feels like so. It feels like so long ago that I was just really weighed down, like one of those big ass ball and chains that prisoners had to wear, and like a chain gang. Anyway, God, it seemed like I said, seems so long ago. So I'll go on. I managed to pay off that amount of dollars that because it was, let me tell you why it's best to start paying off your credit cards first, because the interest rate is incredibly high, not to mention usurious at that, nearly 30% APR. I don't know why that is, but they should not have started. I really think there should be some legislation that passes against lending out credit cards to people who have no credit history and such, or even have no reliable payments and such. Anyway, back to my story. You'll have to excuse me. That's another reason I've been waiting to do the next episode, because I've had this incredible cough that I think it's finally going away. Back to that story. And then after I finally paid off the credit card, I then started paying off my student loans one chunk at a time. One chunk at a time. And the fact that I had my accounting job back in I think this was when I was changing accounting jobs from my bookkeeping job in West Seattle to the tax firm, and I used my paycheck to pay off a whole chunk towards my student loan. And let me just say, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but I trucked through it. And eventually I had my dad's help. And not that I did not, even though I did not ask him to, but he insisted on paying a whole chunk of my student loan debt so that I could really start the rest of my life. He helped pay off a whole chunk of it, about 40 grand of it, provided that I would pay off the remaining 10,000. So it was, that definitely helped focus on my goal of paying it all off. And I remember this day as if it was yesterday. March 9th, 2020 is my very last fucking student loan payment. And that was actually a week before the COVID-19 pandemic shut the world down. And yeah, the joke was on the government when they started offering loan forgiveness programs, like, aha, joke's on you because I paid off all my dollars off, bitches. So, for the very first time, I actually felt free, liberated, debt-free, mind you. And there's this whole rush. I just felt this whole rush of freedom washing over me. And I guess I gotta say, it felt fucking great. And looking back at this now, 5 years later, I am now 50 grand richer than the average American in the United States who is in debt right now. And I'm actually in about just around a little almost equal the debt that I was in. I'm actually now in the green, and I'm so fucking proud of that. But then over time, I actually found myself still scared. I still had these limiting beliefs that okay, now that you have more money, there's just, you have more, that even though I have been making more money, I felt like it wasn't enough. I feel like it wasn't enough to do the things I want. It wasn't enough for me to go traveling. And because of all this unconscious belief this core belief that I had taken unconsciously, that I'm not worthy enough for these things. I do not deserve all these things that a successful woman does. And this year when I started doing some self inner work on myself, not only it's definitely feels really great to be aware of myself, to finally feel those feelings and sit with it instead of numbing them. And I think it's actually created a ripple effect on all areas of my life, that for this topic, I am fucking worthy of abundance. I am worthy of having all those things that I want, because I fucking deserve this. In fact, I actually went out to have dinner by myself tonight, because when the I had dinner over at Stanford's up in Northgate, just to wait out the traffic, because I was in the office today up north, and I did not want to sit in traffic hungry and possibly very angry, so hangry, if you will. It's a portmanteau word. I decided to stop at that restaurant to maybe have some soup and bread or whatever. But then I actually decided, you know what? I deserve a full meal, god damn it. So I ordered myself some mac and cheese after a tiny little cup of minestrone. Pretty good, by the way. And I had this wonderful lady to be serving me. So it was really great. And then as I was taking in the ambiance, I was observing around me of how grateful I am to be in this beautiful restaurant, beautiful surroundings, and the people who are having a great time dining together. And then when I paid the check, she didn't actually charge me for the soup, which is actually quite nice, and I left her a good tip. So thank you, Patricia. So since I came home for the first time in my life, I feel actually a lot calmer than I ever been, because I was not worried about my finances. I was not worried about how much I have in my bank accounts, or how much I have to pay off in my credit card, because instead of this limiting belief of I'm not worthy enough, I reframed it and changed it around and tell myself I am fucking worthy, and there is always money flowing about. And that, my dear friends, is how I actually go about my day, with no intrusive thoughts invading me. I really hope that you take my my words as advice to yourself. If at any time that you look at your bank account or your credit cards, and you look at how much you have, and you feel yourself spiraling, take a minute, take a deep breath, and tell yourself you are safe, you are supported, there is no threat, and there's always money flowing in. So I really hope, and I really, really thank you for listening. And just to let you know, folks, I'm going to take a short break, maybe a month's hiatus, just because of the holiday season coming up. So I wish you in advance happy Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas. And remember, folks, I hear you and I see you. Love you guys. Mwah.